Today's classic cartridge is one I've been looking forward to playing for maybe about 40 years at this point. This is Gargoyles for the Sega Genesis. You and I, as we have discussed many times on this show, are Super Nintendo men. But this was one of the Genesis titles that I would read about in magazines, and I got very excited about it. And it was one of those titles that made me wish that I owned a Genesis.
Yeah, and it came out in 1995 for the Sega Genesis. So if you can imagine, and there was supposed to be a Super Nintendo port that never happened. I can't really call this a classic now after spending some real time with this game because it's unbelievably difficult, but what you can really appreciate is the art in this game is astounding.
Yeah, and it kind of makes me really appreciate the power of the Genesis because it was really, you can feel the machine even from 20 years ago just working to get this game moving and out the door, and it looks fantastic. It really pops off the screen.
Yeah, it's based on the Gargoyles animated show, which was out around the same time as the... I watched a little bit, and I can't remember any of the plotline stuff, but it was an acclaimed show in much the same vein that the Batman animated series was so well received back in their day. They used to be talked about in the same tones all the time. That was another reason why I wanted to jump into this game, and I've had this thing in my collection, but I've never played it until now. And you know, to sit down and see the animation of the gargoyle jumping up and a couple of wing strokes, and he's flying and he's grappling on walls and jumping up, and there's so much mobility and so many frames of animation and the way that you can maneuver around everything, but therein also lies one of the issues of the game. You're kind of a four-legged creature with wings. You're not a tiny sprite, you know, like a human sprite. You're this creature that takes up physical space on the screen, and you're constantly missing platforms and constantly getting hung up on obstructions. I was just getting interminably frustrated. You know, trying to sort of progress through the game. It's very, very challenging, this sucker.
It kind of feels like if Castlevania and Super Mario 64 made a baby.
Sort of, yeah.
The result would be this game. Both of those games have more going on than this game has going on.
Yeah, and they're way easier to control than this game.
But, you know, I kind of got into learning how to control my gargoyle. Like, I love that one uppercut he throws like that. But the one thing I didn't like was when the enemies die in the game, they always scream like women.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably would too if a gargoyle was killing me.
Well, those were women that you were killing.
I was killing women. I don't even know why.
And I know, and it feels like they're the only ones that scream, which is kind of weird.
Can I kill some men, please?
You fight Vikings, you fight robots. It's in the past, it's in hell, it's in Manhattan. It goes all over the place, and there's a real kind of expanse of visuals and things to do in this sucker. But just be prepared. Like I did, I'm going to confess something. I looked for some cheat codes so I could get
cheat codes
a couple places.
That's
and
You're off the show.
You could readily find those, by the way. This thing was owning me. It was just slapping me around. I couldn't get past some of the. I
had no problems.
I know your VHS series. I got to watch it still.
What are you going to score this?
It's still fun. It's still a great sort of game to kind of dig up, especially if you've got it in your collection, haven't looked at it for a long time. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
I was glad to finally get to know Gargoyles, but I'm also glad that I was mostly a Super Nintendo guy. I'm going to give it a 7 as well.